Let's talk about how to pass the video interview for RSM tenant. What's up guys, it's Mike from Job Ready English here with another Pass the Video interview. Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 professional services company RSM tenant and how you can pass their video interview. As ever, if you need more help with sample answers, worksheets and in-depth courses to help you pass your RSM tenant video interview, then check out the link down in the description below. If you've never watched a Pass the Video interview before, we split it up into 3 parts. Part number 1, we talk about what you can expect from their recruitment process. Part 2, we identify the most common questions that we found in our research from publicly available sources and how to answer those questions. And part number 3, we highlight some other interesting questions we came across and talk about how you can answer those questions in a rapid fire round. All of our research comes from publicly available sources, from what candidates have reported in RSM tenant's video interview and their recruitment process from the last 6 months. Let's get started. So, candidates reported that the RSM tenant recruitment process took about 2 months. They did an online application, online test. The video interview was pretty standard. They then had an assessment centre and a partner interview. You should expect in a video interview for 2 minutes to answer and 1 minute to think about your answer. The assessments are interactive and it was more personal to the job role than we've noticed in other companies. The assessment centre also included making a 1-page report for a non-listed company, which is something that we haven't come across before. So let's talk about the most common questions. We've identified 8 of them. Question number 1, how do you handle criticism? Now, this could be looked at as a strength-based question, but I'd like to think of it as a competency question or STAR-based question. So for those of you who aren't familiar with STAR, this stands for situation, task, action, result. What was the situation you found yourself in? Where were you? What were you doing? What date was it? What was the task that you had to do? What was the actions that you took to carry out that task? And what was the result that you achieved by carrying out that task? Something important to remember for all competency-based questions is 70 to 80% of your response should be based in the action. Whenever you're asked a competency question like, tell me about a time when you, describe a time when you X, Y, Z, think about what is the skill that I'm being tested on. What is the competency? To be competent means to be skilled or able to do something. So here they're talking about handling criticism. So what does that mean? Say for example, I'm your manager. I ask you to carry out a report for this month's revenue for our different stores. You bring me that report and I give you some criticism about the data that's in the report, the way that the information is presented. Perhaps there are some spelling mistakes within that report. How would you handle that criticism, or what's the best way to handle criticism professionally? Well, first of all, you want to listen with an open mind. A lot of times when people deal with criticism, they close their mind because they go in there thinking, well, I'm right and you're wrong, or they actually take criticism personally. So in a professional context, a good manager or a good colleague provides criticism to help somebody else to be better at their job. Perhaps they don't have the information at their disposal when they first do something, and the only way that we can improve is through feedback, but some people hear it as criticism. So we definitely need to make some notes. We'd also ask some questions, and we could potentially also explain the way that we had done things. So say for example, you've presented information to me in a research report which is in bar charts. They say, well, we like to do it in tables, or we like to do it in line graphs, or whatever that may be. You might say, well, actually, I felt that a bar chart was a cleaner way of presenting this information, or this was the reason why I did it. Because the one thing that we can do if we're having a feedback session, or if I'm delivering criticism, certainly I found somebody I work with, we may have a discussion about it, and they may present an idea to me, and I think, that's so interesting. I've never thought about it like that, but actually I think that you're right. Yeah, I think we should do something like that. The next thing that you would do is take on board everything that's said, and then you make sure the next time when you present that work or that thing, that task that you did, that you took on board the criticism. And the successful result is, well, I may not have done well this time, but next time I improved on what I had to do. Question number 2, why do you want to work at RSM? So if you want an in-depth answer to this question and an explanation from me, then make sure you click the card up in the top right hand corner. We've also got a free worksheet that you can download. The most common mistake I find when people are talking about why they want to work for a company is that answers are too vague and too generic. I want to work at RSM because it's a big company and it's really well known and there are lots of staff and I get good training and I'd get to learn from clients and blah blah blah. Now this is really an answer that we could say for any company, not just for RSM. So try to pick out 5 or 6 facts about the company, and this should really take you no longer than 15 minutes. I'll be honest with you, the main reason why I see people fail to answer this question is really just laziness, because they haven't put in the time to research about the company. Look at their About Us page, their history, their core values, their annual report, their blog, their news, their insights, their white papers. There are tons of sources of information to get good facts about the company. And try to pick out 1 or 2 facts which resonate with you. Perhaps they give to a particular charity which means something to you. Perhaps their emphasis on diversity resonates with you as a young woman of colour. Whatever it is that may be, by trying to link up a personal experience, this is really quite helpful in delivering an answer that isn't just very systematic and list-like. Question number 3, how would you cope with multiple deadlines? So this is another competency style question, but I want to give you a couple of tips in answering this question based upon my experience of listening to this answer many different times from different people. So first of all, what were the deadlines? I'd say pick 3, to be honest with you. Say for example you've got 2 minutes to answer this question. That's about 200 words. If you try and pick more than 3 different deadlines or 3 different things that you have to do, this is too much to explain. Perhaps you might just want to pick 2. What I'd always say to you is, if you can make it simpler, that's better. The more complex it is, the more things that you have to explain, the more likely it is that I'm not going to understand what you're saying. And really importantly, explain what you have to do in these things. So recently, one of the clients that I've been working with one-to-one is a doctor from a different country who's come to the UK and wants to do a career change. Now she explained about having clinical hours at a hospital, having to teach at a university, and also having to deliver particular medical reports. Now, of course, she can't explain that in detail because an hour probably wouldn't be enough for me to understand what she did. But if I just say, just explain it in a really simple way. So she said, well, I had to have 20 hours a week where I did rounds. This was where I have to meet with patients individually, and I'd see 40 to 50 patients every week. Cool. Give me some basic numbers, just a very basic understanding of what it is that you had to do. Very often people say, well, I had to work and I had to do a paper and also I had to see my friends. What does that mean? Well, I worked 20 hours a week at a coffee shop. I had to do a paper which was 5,000 words, which meant that I had to go to the library, research the paper, get my sources, and then start to write the paper, which takes me about an hour or 2 hours a day. So give me some timings, give me some context. Numbers, statistics give context and help me to understand and comprehend what something means. It's very different if I said to you, well, today I had to write 5 emails. If I say, well, today I had to write 5 2,000 word emails. That's a much clearer idea of context. Question number 4, how would you deal with explaining your concepts? Now, the crux of the idea behind this question is, can you explain complex things in a simple way? This is something that a lot of technicians or knowledge workers really struggle with. They will have a complicated concept, and say you're trying to explain to a client, I'm a business owner, and when I go to meet our accountants, they do a really good job of explaining things to me in a simple way that I can understand, because I don't understand accounting. I understand the basics of cash flow management, profit and loss, and taxes and these types of things. And what they tend to do is use analogies like this is like this, or just explain it in a really simple way and say, well, this basically means that you're going to have to pay this much money because this is a fee to do with this. Oh, well, why do I have to pay that? Well, because that's the law. Oh, okay, I understand. So dealing with explaining new concepts to somebody could be, say, for example, you're trying to teach somebody something at work. You're trying to teach somebody something to use a new software that you're having to do during a group project. How do you break that down? Well, actually what you tend to do is you tend to do step by step. You tend to explain the core concept, like why are we doing this, because that keeps people motivated. This is how we do it, and also we may document that process or actually do that with them once or twice. Whenever I'm showing somebody who I work with how to do something, I tend to jump on a Zoom, I do it, I ask them to do it, I see them do it, and then I document the process so they have a reference point that they could come back to. Question number 5, what is your biggest achievement recently? Now, for everybody that's going to be different, but what I really encourage you to do is to choose a biggest achievement that is genuine and resonates with you. And I'll explain why I'm saying this. I often hear answers which are, to be honest, not true. So they might be, well, I wrote a report at work. Now that could be true, but it probably isn't. That's probably not your biggest achievement. That's not the thing that, late at night when you think, damn, it's been a good month. Like I did this and this and this. It's not going to be you wrote a report. I mean, it could be, I wrote a report and it was presented to XYZ person. That's cool. But try to pick something that really does mean something to you, like you'd share it with your mum or your dad or your family and friends. Not something that you believe that we want to hear, i.e. an employer. Question number 6, a time you worked in a team and achieved a goal with an obstacle. Now, to be honest, most projects, most tasks have obstacles. That obstacle could be time, it could be a variation of circumstance, it could be a difficult team member, but this is just give me a time when you had to overcome a problem or overcome a situation. One thing I would say is that it should be substantial. So say, for example, it's not like, well, we had to do a project and then we couldn't use this software, so we used a different software. It's not really an obstacle, is it? But it could be, we could only use this software and we found that none of our computers had it and didn't have the capacity to use it. And then we had to do 1, 2, 3. An obstacle is something for me which involves, 2 or 3 steps to come to a solution. Potentially some research, asking some people for some help, and also working in a team. What are the important skills within this? Well, communicating with my team members, listening to what they had to say, making sure my part of the work is done, asking other people if they need help, working together to overcome obstacles, taking on board additional work if needs be to help others. Question number 7, how would you approach solving a problem using data from several different sources? Now this is very much an audit and tax related question. So just to kind of go through a more technical and systematic process, well, we want to verify the source of the data. How reliable is this data? Is it all of the same date? Is it all of the same type? Is it all of the same source? Can we ask someone else? Is this a similar situation somebody else has gone through? Is this a process which has been documented? And then we carry out our analysis as usual. So very often people will be like, well, I don't know, like what are the sources of data? So this is a question that involves asking more questions. This is a question that involves me probably asking for help and seeking to model off somebody who has already solved this situation. Question number 8, what skill set would you bring to RSM? Now this is definitely a question where you want to use the job description. So what are the skills that they're asking for in the job description? What type of person do you have to be? What roles and responsibilities would you have? And if the job description for RSM isn't helpful, then just look it up on a website like prospects.ac.uk or from a different professional services company. That's the skill set that they're looking for. Don't just use yourself, who you are, and not even think about the skills that are required for the job that you're going to do. So here are 3 other questions that we came across which we thought were interesting. How do you analyse data? Well, systematically. Almost quite similar to that number 7 of the most common questions. So analysing data, well, I need to verify the source, I need to clean the data, I need to probably check with somebody else what's the process for analysing that data, I need to understand the result that I'm looking to move forwards to, and most importantly, I really think, has this been done before? Question number 2, what do you enjoy doing? Be honest, what do you actually enjoy doing? Don't just make stuff up, it's weird. Question number 3, is spending too much time on data analysis good or bad? Depends on the time frame. Depends on the nature of the project and what it is that you've got going on and what you have to do and what is too much time. It's not too much time if it's correct. Better that the analysis to be correct and the data be valid than you rush something and it not be correct. Guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let us know what you like about the new look. just wanted to try a different angle with the camera today and move a little bit away from the set. What other videos could we make? Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, drop us a comment down below. What other videos would you like us to make? I think the funniest one that I've had this week, which wasn't included in the comment, is how would I pass the interview to be Satan?
Stop it. Get some help.
Fair enough. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I wish you the best of luck in your RSM interview. See you later.